Good evening, everyone. We are reconvening into open session at 5:37. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. Do I have a motion for action on student discipline cases 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15?
I so move.
And a second?
I second that motion.
Call for the vote. Did you get to vote? I'm an aye also. Oh, I showed up. Okay, and that motion carries. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to request approval of the agenda, but adding a 7.02, which is recognition of some of our exceptional student athletes tonight. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
And a second?
I second that motion.
Call for the vote. The motion passes unanimously. Can we call Coach Kit forward to recognize the Merced High girls water polo team?
Okay, good evening, board, and all the people that are here to support what we've accomplished over this year. I'd just like to thank Merced Union High School District. It has a very long history of supporting aquatics throughout the school district. There's several board members that have been very integral members of what's been happening in our aquatics community. And then just a short recap of our season. You know, it was a pretty long season. We had pretty high expectations when we started. I don't know if we really thought that we were going to achieve a section championship, but we never said that we were, and we took each game one game at a time, and I think it's a testament to the hard work that our athletes put in, beginning after we lost in the semifinals last fall. And so they've worked very hard, and our team has done a great job and played as a team, and we pretty much won the championship on our defense. And playing team defense is probably one of the hardest things to do in any sport. So I really am very proud of this group of young ladies. And thank you to the coaches that helped me along the way. Okay, so first athlete, Alexandria Martinez.
Congratulations. And just stand right over there and we'll take a picture.
Amelia Peterson. Audrey Obruba. Dorothy Drury. Elise Metcalf. here, maybe not here. Faith Vargas. Jasmine Fagan. Kate McIntosh. Madison Plemon. Mariah Ignacio. Olivia Westerberg. Sarah Slocum. Taylor Lung. Zoe Hickman. Can I also thank my coaches, Katie Slocum, Kirsten Weston, and Madeline Hall. So do you have to please? Just a few. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, ladies. If I'm not mistaken, that's the first ever women's section championship team from Merced High, and there have been some incredible teams there, so bravo. All right, at this time, we will call Mr. Torrin Johnson up.
Good evening, President Ham, board members, Superintendent Peterson, Cabinet, Mr. Orbach, and friends and family of the program. Thank you very much for the invitation, acknowledging our great success with our water polo team winning the section championship. We greatly appreciate this opportunity. I would like to introduce the coaches of this team. First, we have the head coach, Mr. Wyatt Brigham. Assistant coach, Sydney Abril. And assistant coach, Tamara Kapagian. Mr. Brigham's going to say a few words about this season.
Hello, everyone. My name is Coach Wyatt Brigham, and I had the great pleasure of being the head coach for the Buhat Colony Water Polo Varsity Boys this year. I want to start by thanking all my fellow coaches for all their help and support this year, and I would also like to thank these boys here tonight for their hard work and dedication. Okay, without that, they would not be able to achieve this enormous accomplishment. Thank you for your help in acknowledging these gentlemen tonight, in making history and being the first ever varsity boys water polo team to earn a section championship at Buhat Colony High School. Alexander Cecilia. Andrew Ben Rostro. Christopher Ruelas. Donovan Chamberlain. Fernando Velasquez. Gunnar Pettinger. I don't think he's there. Isaiah Castaneda. Jackson Simmons. Jose Tiscareno. Jude Pierce. Julian Magallon. Matthew Dilsaver. Taven Tipler. And Victor Kalunga.
All right, picture over here.
Thank you to all of our student athletes for your hard work in the pool and in the classroom. We appreciate you. You are very welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting, but if you want to leave, drive safe. Have a good evening. At this time, we will call Mrs. Parley forward to present the Atwater High School showcase.
Yes. Congratulations.
All right, Mrs. Parley, you have the floor.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Peterson, cabinet, and guests. I am Alexi Parley, the principal of Atwater High School. On behalf of our students and staff, I am honored to welcome you to our campus. I'd like to invite all my custodial crew and my students up for my showcase. It is my privilege to share with you an inspiring showcase of the incredible work our students and staff have accomplished through the Merced County Workforce Development Student Internship Program. This partnership exemplifies the missions of both Merced Union High School District and Atwater High School to prepare students for college, career, and community success. First, I'd like to spotlight Senior David DeMello, who was supposed to be here, and I do not see him, but I'm going to continue on. David is currently participating in the Workforce Development Program as an intern with Merced County's Geographic Information Systems Department. David has been using drones to collect data and to create detailed digital maps for the county, work that not only sharpens his technical skills and analytical skills, but also contributes meaningfully to our community. His experiences showcase the program's power to immerse our students in cutting-edge fields and open doors to high-demand careers. In addition, our district partnered with the Workforce Development Program to provide internships that paired our students with our Atwater High School staff this summer. This initiative was a true win-win. Students gained hands-on experience, learning the value of teamwork, problem solving, and maintaining the infrastructure that supports our school. This work gave our students not only practical knowledge, but also a great sense of pride in our campus. What's equally remarkable is how this program benefited our staff. For some of our staff, this was their first opportunity to lead and teach others. This experience helped them grow as professionals, building their leadership skills and deepening their connection to our educational mission. One of the most inspiring outcomes of this program is Jairo Cortez, a former student who participated in the summer internship program. Jairo now works side by side with the same staff who mentored him this summer. His story embodies the superintendent's goal of grow our own, developing talent from within. I would like to thank Deputy Superintendent Mandy Ballinger and Program Administrator Jeanette McCauley for providing us with this opportunity, and John Sanchotina, our dedicated staff, and the students who embraced these opportunities with enthusiasm. Thank you for your dedication and hard work, and I'd now like to hand the mic over to John to say a few words.
Thank you, Parley. Good evening, board. I just want to reach out and just say what a success this was, because, you know, we're growing and we got more and more portables. We got a new gym. We got everything. We're just getting busier and busier, but our staff, you know, we're kind of limited to about 11 custodians on days. Whenever summer comes, we got to get these rooms all clean, get them deep clean, shampoo, wax these floors, and then you got people taking their vacation time. But by having these students and be able to make up teams, it was really beneficial to us. We were able to accomplish deep clean these rooms. We had students, we taught them how to run side-by-side shampoo machines. They ran scrubbers, pickup machines. We had them doing lights, wiping walls, doing windows. It was just numerous and numerous things that we were able to accomplish by being able to have the ability of these students and also teach them at the same time. And it was kind of, you know, we're a little kind of hectic at first to work with students, but it actually, after a week, it was very beneficial, and we liked it, and it really helped us out a lot to accomplish a lot. And but I just want to say thank you to all the students for helping out, plus the custodial staff that took the teams on, and we had up to about 30 kids throughout the summer. So it was big for us, and it was very, very beneficial. So I just want to say thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and the board, and I wanted to say thank you to the people they have in charge for the program. And I wanted to say just my experience, and I wanted to show any little idea how it worked the kids with me. So in the beginning, when I got informed we was gonna work by myself with just kids, I got kinda nervous and struggling to think I can imagine to work with all these kids. So it was the day when I have to work by myself with all those kids. So it was nothing for me, it's stressing out before working with the kids. So the school keep growing and growing, and we don't have enough help. It was just the 6 custodians, they're not adding more people. So for me, it was wonderful work with all those kids, and thank you again for the people make this program and for you guys too. And the people has all the idea. So we clean a lot of stuff, in years, we don't have time to clean it. So example, we clean all those windows for the cafeteria inside and outside. So we have a time to clean all those gutters for the lights, walls, everything. So we clean a lot this summer for the help of these kids. So the kids, they was on it and everything. And I learned how manners working with kids. And we do a lot at the school with all this help. And thank you everybody for bring this program to us. So the school, it was more clean than usually because we have more help.
Does anyone have any questions for our students? Or any of our students want to say anything?
hello board. I would just say I am very thankful for this opportunity. As prior to this, as you know, like while you're still in high school, it is very you struggle a lot to find somewhere to work, especially because you have to fight with your schedule, or they say you're too young, they want an experience. And I'm very grateful that the staff actually allowed us to come in and were willing to work with us, because I know at the beginning we were very chaotic. We didn't know what to do, where to go, but they were very patient. They got us on track. They were very kind, very opening to us. And I mean, they gave us a lot of good experience. I learned how to use the shampoo machines, which was very big to me, because at first it was difficult, but now like I can say I can do it while a lot of other people cannot. It can go down on my resume. And I did build a pretty nice resume over the summer. I also built a very nice bank account, which I'm very thankful over.
Thank you. Honestly, when I said that it was a true win-win, that was not an understatement. We gushed all summer, and we had a lunch for all of our students, and we brought them back, and we also invited the Merced County staff. Ms. Ballinger joined us, and we all gushed, and almost sometimes to tears, because it truly was just a great experience overall, I think, for our staff and for our students, and our school benefited, as you heard. So we appreciated it. Again, true win-win all the way around. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I commented earlier that the bathroom was incredibly clean this evening, and it's not always that way at board meetings, so we really appreciate all of the custodial help and your mentorship towards our students.
And plans to continue, expand?
I'm hoping so, Ms. Ballinger. It was such a great success. It was supposed to end at the end of the summer, and then once we brought the county here and they heard the stories from our students and from our staff they shared, they actually extended it into August, and so we were able to benefit from it longer. So we sure hope it does continue. Okay. It is an honor to provide an update on the remarkable progress and achievements happening at Atwater High School this year. We are proud of the strides that we've made, the opportunities we are providing for students and staff, and the partnerships we've made that continue to strengthen our school community. Tonight you have the opportunity to preview the newly completed Roddy Svensson Aquatic Center, a state-of-the-art facility that will benefit our aquatics programs, students, and the community. This project exemplifies the district's commitment to providing top-notch resources for our students. Thank you. We can't wait to see our students dive in and create waves of success. Our CTE turf management pathway, a previous board showcase, completed a significant project recently, renovating fields at Osborne Park and our JV baseball field. This collaboration with the City of Atwater, Garton Tractor, and West Coast Turf provided invaluable hands-on experience and garnered recognition, including local and national industry coverage. Community partnerships remain the cornerstone of our success. Bloss Memorial recently donated vital industry standard equipment to our patient care pathway. In addition, Bloss continues to offer free physicals for our athletes and required TB tests for our pathway students, removing barriers to participation and hands-on learning. Atwater High School remains the hub of student activity and achievement. As you walked over from the pool, you may have noticed the new gym filling up for tonight's basketball game, our stadium for our soccer game, our old gym for our winter band concert, and you might have heard the national anthem. It sounded like they were warming up. And our assets game room that we relocated this year to a more visible location on campus to support higher attendance and participation. You will also find in front of you an athletic photo taken, designed, edited, and printed by our photography pathway students. I am proud to share that every one of our fall athletics programs had a team or individuals move on to the postseason. Juliana Aguilar and our theater students are currently presenting their 25th annual production of A Christmas Carol at the Bloss House. With our successful athletics programs, our robust pathways, and career technical student organizations like Skills USA, HOSA, FCCLA, and FFA, our students are actively participating, competing, and thriving. Atwater High School had a first quarter attendance rate of 95%, clear evidence that our students want to be here, and our staff, our programs, and our opportunities are why. Additionally, I am proud to report that Atwater High School is in the blue on the California dashboards for graduation rates, with an impressive 97.8% of our students earning diplomas. Our students also continue to excel in the completion of industry certifications, with the class of 2024 completing an impressive 1,904 certifications, 40% of all certifications in the district. We've continued to expand our multi-tiered system of supports, primarily at the Tier 2 levels. This year, our intervention coordinator has expanded opportunities for our out-promised students by teaching 2 character-strong strands of lessons that equip our students with the skills to regulate and cope with the emotions that would otherwise lead to behaviors that can adversely impact their success. Our counselors are using Panorama as an early warning system and its data to drive interventions and placement. We've also implemented new interventions like check-in, check-out, and lunch group sessions that use Panorama curriculum as alternatives to IC and suspensions. These efforts have resulted in a 95% reduction in suspensions over the last 2 years, placing us in the blue on the California dashboards for suspensions. We are currently designing supports to strengthen Tier 1 practices to better provide high-quality, equitable instruction for all students. We also reintroduced Link Crew to our campus this year to help our freshmen feel more and welcome at Atwater High School. This program fosters a sense of belonging and has already made the difference in reducing negative behaviors while promoting positive relationships. Additionally, Freddie's clothing closet was transformed to Frederick's wardrobe. By reimagining it as a boutique-style store, we've removed the stigma and encouraged more students to utilize this resource. Our instructional focus this year is to increase opportunities for higher depths of knowledge levels, engagement, and skill building in classroom tasks. This focus aligns with the district's deeper learning goals to increase higher order thinking tasks in our classroom. I am proud to report that last week's DOK average from our walkthrough data is a 2.16, and during our classroom walkthroughs, we observed DOK 2+ activities at least 83% of the time. As well, our instructional leadership team has continued to evolve with peer-led cohorts, shifting from Engage AHS to PLC Plunge to better emphasize collaboration and deeper learning. Instructional PD opportunities have included an ongoing focus on the district's must-haves paired with our and the district's focus on DOK and deeper learning. Atwater High School's success is a direct result of our collective commitment to excellence, from student certifications and instructional initiatives to community partnerships and expanded supports. We are making steady progress towards our site and district goals. Together, we will continue raising expectations, building opportunities, and ensuring success for every student. Thank you for the time and your ongoing support of Atwater High School. This concludes my report.
Thank you for hosting us tonight, Mrs. Parley. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, thank you. At this time, we will move on to the general public comment period. And for everyone, the meeting is recorded. Individuals addressing the board are asked to fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room. Complete a blue card to speak to an item not on the agenda and a yellow card to speak to an item on the agenda. Please return the card to the administrative secretary of the governing board. Individuals addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes each with no more than 20 minutes per topic. During this portion of the agenda, the public is invited to comment on items which are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board of Trustees. The board will take no action at this time but may refer the issue for further consideration. Individuals who wish to comment on agenda items shall be provided an opportunity to comment after the staff report and before the board's consideration of that item. Individuals who cannot wait to address the board when the agenda item is listed may make their comments at this time. I'd like to call Bill Warden to the microphone.
Good evening. Before I begin, I would like to state that my presentation represents my pure opinion, and we all know what an opinion is like. No specific names are mentioned to protect the innocent. During the board meeting on February 13th, 2024, I guess I didn't articulate my request for payment of money owed to me for substitute assignments in 2017, or maybe both the board and district office personnel are visual learners instead of auditory learners. So as a refresher, here is the poster reviewing the 6 pillars of character. So I just want to make sure everyone has seen these before. I don't see many of them around anymore, but it's something that was on every campus a few years ago. Fortunately, I was able to save this one. The rest are probably at the bottom of the bird cages, where at least they are doing some good. Don't fret, the district will probably jump on the next academic bandwagon, and the wagon train will wander aimlessly throughout the hallway and classrooms of the Merced Union High School district. On a positive note, now that the November election is over and the results certified, it is nice not to see a new name and face sitting on the board from areas 3, 4, and 5, even though an individual and or individuals sitting here tonight actively campaign to unseat an incumbent. In closing, this is the season of giving. I would like to give the district office personnel some jelly beans. Place the jelly beans on your tongue and let it dissolve slowly. These beans are way more potent than the liquid concentrate drink known originally as Fruit Smack. And since you're not drinking the current version, you won't have to wait in line to use the district office restroom. Also, since it doesn't seem the district office sees the goodwill of giving, I had Scrooge and Krampus create this prototype Santa look-alike hat that you can place on the top of your giving tree at the district office. I will gladly donate it to you. It will probably be talked about a lot around the drink dispensers throughout the district's office. Ho, 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 and to all a good night. Here's hoping the district finally does what is right. Now I'm heading to the gym to listen to the band's Christmas concert. It will be so much more enjoyable than coming here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Enjoy the concert. All right. At this time, we'll move on to the reports and discussion portion of the agenda. Mrs. Ballinger.
Good evening, board and guests. It's that time of year where we review our superintendent goals and we set some new ones. So tonight I have our goals that we've been working on and then some suggestions for new ones. Historically, our goals have been 2-year goals, and they start from their calendar year goals, and they'll start in January. I'll kind of review where we currently are and then again make some suggestions for revisions. So the first one is our English goal that we're coming up on the end of our 2 years with this goal. Ms. Berman reviewed that in November with you, kind of where we are and that we've accomplished all of these. The recommendation for the English goal would be to go ahead and remove that one and let it fall off. We also had a goal for special education that was finishing up its 2 years, and we also reviewed that one in November. We met all the different parts of the goals. Mrs. Johnson presented that to you, and that one we also recommend that we remove that one because we completed it. Our goal for instruction is just finishing up its first year, and this is that DOK, Deeper Learning Goal. We reviewed where we are at on that one in September. It is in progress still. I'd like to recommend that we continue with the implementation. Did want to make a change or suggest a change there that we will continue to provide professional development because we did provide professional development this year, and we want to continue that next year so that we can provide teachers with more DOK and deeper learning strategies that they can use in their classroom. So just adding continue to is the recommendation for that goal. For our social studies goal, we reviewed the freshman seminar health part in September with you. And we've been working on the world history and U.S. history part this fall. What we realized in working with this goal is that the history standards are very chronological. And so coming up with priority standards was a little bit difficult for those teachers as they were working through it. So a suggestion on a revision for this one is to change it to that we're going to review content and literacy standards. We found that the literacy standards aren't well known in the social studies, so that was an area that we could grow in there. So we wanted to recommend that change there. And then we also wanted to add in the personal finance to the goal because AB 2927 is going to soon be a graduation requirement, so we might as well work on it as part of this goal also. So that's also recommended as a revision for that goal. Keep going backwards. And then our Grow Your Own goal, we reviewed that one in November also. It's in progress. We want to keep that one the way it is, so there are no recommended changes there. So with it in mind that the English goal and the special ed goal are finishing up 2 years, and we've completed what we requested there. Kind of brainstormed some considerations for new goals. They're based on comments that have been made during board meetings. I know that math comes up a lot when we talk about instruction, and also last month when we talked about special education, there was a discussion about that goal kind of needed to stay around, something with that. Also wanted to look at the comprehensiveness of the goals. We've received a lot of feedback about the instruction goal this year and that really it touches all of our classrooms. So it requires a lot of people to be involved in it and that's a good thing. So we wanted to kind of look at comprehensiveness with that. We also, the California dashboard, we have areas where we're red in and our special populations normally fall under those. So we wanted to make sure we kept those in the front of mind. So with kind of that, one of the suggestions is a goal around data analysis. So we have a lot more data available to us today, but we don't always know what to do with that or how to use it best. So a data analysis goal could be along the lines of creating a collaboration structure that includes consistent data analysis protocols to analyze math and English. So we're keeping that math in the forefront and the English, and special populations, which rolls special ed back in, and also our ELD students on a regular basis with a minimum of quarterly. And then also a suggestion could be then at the end of year one, then we make some kind of improvement goal for English and math. We're far enough along in the curriculum and the local assessments in English and math that they could come out with a performance goal because they have local assessments now. We're using NWEA. So if they start digging into that data, that could be an area that we can move to making it some kind of performance goal there. Like I said, it keeps the special populations in the forefront, adds that ELD also by just making it special population and not special ed. We also can use panorama data to help with the SEL part, so it also keeps MTSS in the forefront. So a data analysis goal kind of helps us hit multiple areas, and all the data that is available, it helps us figure out how we want to use that to be productive and make data-driven decisions. So that's a suggestion for a goal for next year. Also, I think that we want to start thinking about how to align our superintendent goals with our LCAP goals. Over the last few years, as superintendent goals have moved more into the classroom, there's more and more discussion about it. Sites, as you heard Ms. Parley, sites are using it for their own goals and their own initiatives on their campuses. And we don't always see that with our LCAP goals. So I'd like us to start thinking about moving into tying our LCAP goals and our superintendent goals together. This is what it would look like if we went with a data analysis goal. As kind of suggested, it falls into 3 of our LCAP goals. Our social study goal that we currently have falls under the goal number 3 because we're really working to make our curriculum consistent across the district so it's equitable for all of our students. And then our current instruction goal and Grow Your Own fall under our current goal number 4, which is that recruiting and retaining innovative staff, where we're working on that professional development part. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as we're moving forward and discussing superintendent goals, is how they can connect to LCAP goals. So that's kind of what I had for us, but I'm sure that you have other things that you've been thinking about. So I wanted to kind of be able to have a discussion about things that you have been considering or that you think are important for us to include in our goals, or maybe any questions you have about these.
Thank you. Why don't we go trustee by trustee and just share some thoughts and ideas? Mr. Coleman, would you care to start?
Sure. So, Mrs. Ballinger, I'm going to make a leap here. Data analysis will pretty much cover dashboard, special populations, comprehensiveness, and maybe even LCAP, right? So
that would be the goal with something
Right.
like data analysis. That
Okay,
it
so
could
then
hit a lot of areas.
Yeah, we could do like subgroups or sub areas. Okay. And then, okay. That was I guess my one thought. Thank you.
You can have more.
Thank you, Mandy, for this. My comments are, I think, regarding the possible next steps with some of the goals that we're looking at checking off. One of those being the ELA. What we had that we've accomplished is some of the structure, like, creating the assessments. We have that in place, some of the structures and so forth. But then what? Which I think might go to the instructional goal and the data analysis goal. Same thing with special ed. What is that next step now that we've laid that foundation, so that we're getting into the actual achievement in the proficiency and making gains in those areas. My other comment would be if there's a place to add media literacy, maybe somewhere in that social studies goal with the financial literacy or someplace.
So we added media literacy to the freshman seminar
The
part
seminar?
of that goal.
Okay.
So it's a whole unit in freshman seminar.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And as far as the dashboard and kind of what Mr. Coleman was talking about is, I'd be interested in having some type of a performance goal, which I think you alluded to in the year 2 of the data analysis goal, so that we're getting to some type of quantitative measure that we can actually look at to see, are we progressing and moving. That could be tied to the dashboard. And then really looking at, if we're going to take a deeper look at the dashboard, looking at the better alignment of graduation rates with academic proficiency, because our graduation rates, and I can't remember offhand what they are for every site, but tend to be green, blue. They're pretty good, but that does not correlate with ELA and math proficiency. So, it kind of begs the question about the proficiency versus just meeting the unit requirement for graduation, which we want students to have. We want them to have those options for sure when they graduate, but also the ability to be successful in whatever they do, because they have the reading and the writing and math skills that they need. I like the alignment of the LCAP. And then the only other piece, and this might be maybe with the instructional piece, but something maybe more specific to language development with our EL students. I know as feeders, I work for one of the feeders, and we need to, reclassify more students so they have more options when they get to high school and are adequately prepared. But even if students opt out of the ELD, they're still EL for a reason, which means they're not proficient somewhere, either on their LPAC or their CASP. So maybe, some attention somewhere in that, or a future goal, so that we're developing the language. But I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sam.
I'd like to say Tiffany touched on a lot of great points. One of the things that I was thinking about was, as we check off the goal for English, and then I think there's a report that's coming up later where when you look at the graduation rates and then you still see the numbers on the students who are still meeting or barely meeting standards, how do we bridge that gap so that we don't just check this off, but how do we go great into depth and make sure that we can improve those numbers on the students who, not just barely meeting, but we can work on those so they can venture towards the exceeding. Because when we look at all our graduation rates, they're really good, but those numbers, how does that correlate? So I think we need to still focus on what more we need to do to get, the the English, to where it exceeds, and then same thing with the math rates as well.
Yes.
So just go along with some of what was said already, but with mine was what are the next steps each time as we're going along, and also how are we tracking improvement, or how do we know that there's improvement happening? That's it.
Yeah, and that ties into a couple of the comments. Like, I feel like we're in a data desert, and we really only had that big CASP data. And then over the last few years, we've put in the NWEA, which before that was reading inventory and the math growth. So that gave us a little more data, and now we've built the local assessments, and that's given us a little more data. And then now, like in our ELD classes, they're giving the interim assessment, so that's giving us more data. So as we are growing and gathering more of that data, we need to figure out how to use it, so then we can figure out how to improve the data. Because right now, I think that some of our teachers, they get all these pieces of data, and they don't even know how to look at it, and so they just don't, or they don't know where to go find that data. And so educating and helping people figure that out, and then hearing what they think about how we can improve that, I think is an important part of all of that.
I agree. I think that the last few years with goals, we've been asking for metrics. We've been, begging for data. And like you're saying, mining it is just difficult. So I don't know if it needs its own goal. Maybe it does, or maybe there just need to be analytics that are part of every goal. I think that could be debated. But I think it's something that we need to definitely continue to look at. Most of us were at the California School Board Conference this past week. And there were a couple of things there that I think were some really great ideas. One was the civic seal of accomplishment, and I would love, whether that needs to be a goal or not, I would love for that to be something that we look at offering to our students.
So on that one, Ms. Ham, last year we did make a revision to board policy, so it included the state seal of civic engagement. And we had a couple sites who were going to try to pilot something, and it just didn't get off the ground. So I think we have some structure in place for that, and maybe it's just letting our teachers and our students know more how you get that, because we do have that board policy in place and the administrative regulation to go with it.
Maybe it's something that's introduced in freshman seminar, right? I mean, it seems to fit, but just making sure that it's great to have a board policy, but it's meaningless if nothing, if we don't have a site, you immediately go directly to the superintendent. If you're a student, you start with whom you have the issue with. If you're a staff member, you start with whom you have the issue with. And it's just a very clear communication piece on how to communicate that I think works for students, guardians, and staff. Again, I don't think that necessarily needs to be a goal, because I think it's just a process, and we need to try and communicate it so that people know.
Did you happen to get any examples of ones that you liked?
Yes.
Yes, we have examples, and I would just add the sister piece to that was the customer service for our staff that are interfacing with the public. So, and I honestly think that does need to be a goal.
Okay.
It will be an easy goal, but I'd like to make sure everyone sees that.
And that might be a one-year goal to make sure we have all that, and then with something ongoing for new staff.
Okay. And then a couple other things I just want to make sure didn't fall out. We've had, I think, some struggles or lower than we hope participation in applications for scholarships, for instance. And I know we really discussed that we were going to try and have assets like supports for our seniors and potentially juniors. And I don't really know where that's landed. I don't know if that's supposed to be part of senior seminar or the U.S. history, or I guess I would love for that to be a focal point. I think we do a great job of supporting our kids through CTE pathways onto Merced College. but I think we could be doing more for kids who want to be college bound, and that, I mean, the FAFSA application, the local scholarships, are just, feels like we could be doing more to support our students. And I know Assets does a tremendous job with that. The last thing, because I just love this from CSBA a year ago, was there are some districts that have a special ed program that's for the general population, where they are basically aides to students in the classroom. It's just a tremendous opportunity for SPED kids and gen population kids and paras and classrooms and everything else. So I would really love for us to look further into that.
We do offer that. We have a PAL program. It's peer assisted learners. It's still called that, right? And students can take that, and they help out in our special ed classes with our special ed students, sometimes even with very specific. Yeah.
So how do students find out about that?
It's in our course catalog. And then when they register, it's actually a much better alternative to being a TA at this time, because students actually learn skills while they're helping other students.
Yeah. So do counselors help push kids towards that? Or, I mean, I didn't know. I have a kid who ended up in a TA period on accident. You know, I would have loved for him to be part of that.
I can look into more how we advertise that and what that looks like.
Okay.
And I know we've talked a little bit about ways to incorporate that into our education CTE pathway, along with some changes to TA to make that part of that pathway, so kids are actually leaving us with a little more skill development there. So we've talked about that, but I can find out for you also how we advertise the PAL,
That would be great.
because it really is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess on that note, on CTE pathways, we've talked a lot about different certifications and making sure that kids have not just some of the classroom skills, but something that they can put on their resume, a certificate, or, I mean, is that also a focal point? Does it need to be a goal so that we really get, I guess, more oomph behind?
Certifications are already part of our vision.
Okay.
And so we just updated the scoreboard that's on the district website and on every school's website with the class of 2024 and how many students earned certifications, how many earned college credit, the graduation rate. And then this year we did add involvement on there because we've been focusing on that so much. We wanted to publicize the great numbers there. So you can look at every school's website to see that. But certifications are an integral part of every CTE pathway, and we're really, our goal with CTE there, kind of a side goal, is that we want every pathway to have certification opportunities and college credit opportunities instead of just the more popular ones. We want everybody to have that.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is just discussion, and I know we didn't all feel like we had a lot of time to really think maybe about this. We do have a special meeting on Monday, and I don't know if we want to have more discussion around this or even have a working meeting. I don't know what people's thoughts are or what your proposal is to how you want to come back to us with this.
I think a good idea would be to have a item, probably another report item, and let us summarize this conversation and bring it back to you and make sure we're on the right track, because our timeline is going to be super short for January. We're going to go to break and then boom. So.
Okay, wonderful.
I think I got it all
Thank you.
down.
Okay, thank you. I believe you have the next topic. Thank
I
you.
do. So we wanted to share with you tonight our science and math textbook adoption. We've been working on that for like the last year and a half. We really wanted to have a process that was inclusive of our stakeholders, our district staff, our teachers, parents, students, librarians, any staff member who wanted to be involved have an opportunity to look at the potential curriculum adoption we are going to do. Stacy Cool, one of our program administrators, has done an excellent job leading that. So I'm going to turn it over to her so she can share some of the specifics on how she's been working with that over the last year and a half.
Thank you, Mandy. Good evening, President Ham, members of the board, Superintendent Peterson, and Cabinet. Tonight, I'm pleased to present the results of our comprehensive textbook adoption process, a district-wide initiative that I've led since spring 2023. During the 22-23 school year, Ed Services, get my slides there. Ed Services recognized that our science and mathematics resources needed updating to better serve our students and teachers. This launched an 18-month journey to select materials that would not only align with our current standards, but truly transform learning in our classrooms. We approached the process with 4 key points: reflecting current academic standards and district goals, providing inclusive, engaging resources that speak to all our students, leveraging modern technology to enhance learning, and equipping our teachers with comprehensive research-backed tools. To ensure success, we established a structured framework that engaged all stakeholders throughout the decision-making process. We created clear selection criteria aligned with educational codes, maintained transparency through consistent communication, and set realistic timelines for implementation by the 25-26 school year. This thoughtful approach helps ensure we're not just updating textbooks, we're making strategic involvement in our students' future success. This textbook adoption cycle impacts the 22 courses shown on the screen. This has been a large-scale process affecting 3 major departments: science, mathematics, and ag, as well as their respective AP courses. Stakeholder engagement was vital to ensure materials meet the diverse needs of our school communities. We prioritized involving teachers, parents, students, and others to gather valuable insights into what works in the classroom and supports student success. This approach also aimed to build trust, promote transparency, and foster shared ownership of the educational resources, resulting in materials that are inclusive, effective, and aligned with our district goals. The first step in this process was to initiate the adoption effort and compile a broad list of materials for consideration. I utilized department chair meetings to task chairs with gathering input from their departments, encouraging teachers to suggest any curricula regardless of their familiarity with it. In addition, I used Ed Reports, an independent curriculum evaluation organization, to add more titles of the list. The goal was to create the most comprehensive list possible before applying any selection criteria. In spring 2024, I conducted a needs assessment survey gathering input from 104 staff members, 156 parents, and 116 students. Here are some of the key findings. Teachers emphasized the need for resources that support differentiation, real-world relevance, skill building, and inclusivity. Many parents expressed frustration with purely digital curricula, stressing the importance of physical textbooks to better assist their students and address technical challenges. Students prioritized modern, concise content with real-world applications. While they preferred online options, they also voiced concerns about bulky, underutilized textbooks. And then for those interested, there's a detailed 43-page report summarizing the findings available at the link. As part of the adoption process, there we go, a web page was created and updated throughout to keep stakeholders informed. It also invited parents, students, and community members to explore demonstration materials. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to pause and see if you have any questions so far about what I've described around stakeholder engagement. As mentioned earlier, it was crucial to have a robust research-backed selection criteria that also incorporated now identified wants and needs of teachers, students, and parents. After gathering teacher recommendations, I assembled a skilled team of librarians and our digital curriculum administrator to evaluate publisher samples. Using our district's established criteria, AR 6161, we carefully assessed each option. This initial screening revealed some surprising quality issues. Several publishers were eliminated for concerns that would directly impact our students and teachers. There were technical integration problems that would disrupt rather than enhance learning. Some also had basic quality control issues, including, surprisingly, materials with upside-down pages, and then content that failed to connect with our students' lives and experiences. We documented and shared all elimination decisions to maintain transparency. This careful vetting process helped us narrow our focus to the most promising options: 3 math publishers and 4 science publishers. While publishers were submitting materials, I focused on developing robust evaluation tools to ensure our final selection would truly serve our students and teachers. First, I incorporated direct feedback from our spring surveys, ensuring our evaluation criteria reflected our community's needs. I then strengthened these local insights with proven industry standards, the NGSS Toolkit for Science and the IMET for Mathematics. To further validate our approach, I collaborated with districts across California, learning from their experiences and adapting their successful evaluation methods. The resulting rubric was highly detailed and designed to be as comprehensive as possible, and the image on the slide provides a snapshot of one of the summary score sheets. Knowing that our students come to us with different needs and learning styles, I assembled review teams that could evaluate materials through multiple lenses. I reached beyond content area teachers to include our English language development specialists, special education teachers, librarians, and instructional coaches. As shown, both the math and science teams included a rich mix of expertise. This diverse composition ensured that we were not just considering academic rigor, but how well the materials would serve every student in our classrooms. The goal of this process was not to eliminate materials, but to conduct a thorough critical review. On this and the previous slide, I'm sharing snippets of the detailed rubric. Reviewers not only scored each category, but also cited supporting evidence. These detailed rubrics were eventually shared with teachers and the public. These are the findings from the review teams. These results were shared several times with teachers and are also available on the district's textbook adoption webpage for students, parents, and other interested parties. The links above lead to summary documents comparing all the curricula being considered across each category. In science, Discovery ranked the lowest with 38%, while the others scored in the 60s. In math, McGraw-Hill scored poorly with 45%, with Savas and Carnegie both scoring in the 80s. This fall, science and math publishers were invited to participate in our textbook roadshow held in September and October 2024. The schedule of events is shown on the screen. All math and science teachers currently teaching the subjects under review were invited to attend, and substitutes were arranged for the half-day event. During the roadshows, publishers were assigned time slots to present to the teachers via Zoom and answer their questions. I ensured that physical materials were available at each school site for teachers to evaluate. The warehouse team was crucial in ensuring timely delivery to each campus. Textbook review summaries, detailed rubrics, and evaluator documents were provided again to the teachers. Teachers were also given demo logins to explore the learning platforms and access to a Q&A document to facilitate discussion with the publishers. This is an example of the Q&A document with the publishers. Teachers could type their questions in yellow areas, and publishers responded in the green column. This was extremely successful both during the roadshow event as well as after, so that teachers could ensure all of their questions were answered. At the conclusion of the roadshow, teachers were invited to complete a ranking survey. And then again, I'd like to take a moment to pause and see if there's any questions. While those were the general processes for math and science, I had to take a slightly different approach with Intro to Integrated Math and the AP courses. We're in the midst of making an important change to our math pathway for students who need additional support. Currently, Math A and B splits Integrated Math 1 across 2 years. While this slower pace seemed helpful in theory, our data shows it's not serving students effectively. Math A has been our entry-level math course for any student below grade level. However, starting with half of Integrated Math 1 doesn't address students' fundamental skill gaps. Furthermore, the slower pace actually makes it harder for students to transition to regular speed Math 2. Here is some compelling data from the class of 2024. Only 40% of students who started in Math A as freshmen made it to Math 2 by junior year. In contrast, 66% of students who took regular Integrated Math 1 as sophomores progressed to Math 2. This gap shows that the slower pace isn't preparing students for success in higher level math. This has significant implications for students' academic progress, A through G rates, post-secondary goals, and state test scores. Therefore, we're introducing 2 targeted approaches. For students approximately 2 years behind, a new Intro to Integrated Math course. This focuses on building foundational skills while preparing students for Integrated Math 1, and will utilize HMH's Math 180 books 5 and 6. For students more than 2 years behind, we're currently in our 2nd year of the Math Intensive course, which uses HMH's Math 180 program books 1 through 4. So far, this has proven successful. Last year, our students showed average growth of 2.2 grade levels. A key success has been boosting students' confidence and achievement in a subject they've long struggled with. The Math 180 curriculum has been particularly effective for us so far. By adding Series 5 and 6 to our new intro course, we will better support students in mastering those crucial middle school math concepts that they may have missed. This restructuring will better prepare our students for success in higher level math courses while supporting their post-secondary goals. As for advanced placement, many of our materials were outdated with multiple editions used across the district, so this curriculum needed to be addressed as well. I managed the AP textbook adoption process similarly to how I did for math and science. One day in September, I brought in all the AP science teachers in the morning and AP math teachers in the afternoon. They had the opportunity to review both physical and digital materials and interact with publishers via Zoom. Since the group was smaller, our goal was to reach consensus on the materials to be purchased. They ranked their choices and easily reached agreement that day. It was great to see AP teachers collaborate and discuss their options. Do you have any questions at this time about AP or integrated math?
Yeah, Stacy, I
Yes.
do really quick. So
Sure.
you want to go back to the slide that talks about integrated, or intro to integrated one. And if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, the requirement for high school graduation is Algebra 1. Would integrated or intro to integrated 1 cover that?
No, it would not.
would be back
The
in
state is very clear. It has to
Okay.
be Algebra 1 or integrated math 1.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So
Yeah.
they'd have to do, I guess you would do the intro just to get to that second year. And
Correct,
Okay.
which is what's happening right now with our math intensive course.
okay. Was A and B covering that at one point?
A and B is, in theory, covering all of integrated math 1 across 2 years.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Get a little lag here sometimes. As mentioned at the very beginning, our goals were stakeholder engagement and a comprehensive selection criteria, which I've just outlined. Our other goals were a transparent process and timely implementation. One key reason for an open process was to build trust and gain buy-in. A curriculum can only be successful if people use it, and they're more likely to do so if they understand and are involved in the process. And while the process has been lengthy, beginning in fall 2023, we have hit all of our timeline markers and are on track to have new materials for our students and schools in time for fall 2025. If you recall, at the conclusion of the textbook roadshow, participants were invited to complete a survey ranking their preferred curriculum choices. 46 math and 26 science teachers, including 8 ag science teachers, completed the survey. Other MUHSD personnel, such as administrators, teacher librarians, and instructional coaches, were also invited to share their preferences, along with students and parents. 32 out of 46 math teachers, or about 70%, selected Envision by Savas as their first choice textbook. If adopted by the board, these materials would provide every student with a physical textbook and a consumable workbook, as well as access to an online textbook and digital practice problems for immediate feedback. This choice aligns with the stakeholder needs identified in earlier surveys. Beyond ranking the curricula, I asked teachers to share their reasons for choices. Here you can read what a Buhack Colony math teacher thought of the Savas materials. A Golden Valley teacher noted that the Savas books maintain high rigor while being mindful of students' reading levels. Another teacher appreciated how Desmos was integrated and highlighted the availability of differentiated practice as well as remediation and extension opportunities for students. Savas, along with Carnegie, was one of the 2 top-ranked publishers in our deep curricular review in May. For science and ag science, each discipline evaluated publishers independently due to the complexities of the 3 and 4 course NGSS models. The majority of biology, chemistry, and physics teachers, including ag bio and ag chem teachers, selected the Experienced Science series by Savas. Since Savas doesn't offer an earth science title, teachers recommended HMH for that subject. Like math teachers, science teachers were asked to explain their selections. A Merced High science teacher praised the quality of the Savas science materials, while a Buhack Colony teacher found the HMH resources valuable for earth science. As we conclude tonight's presentation, I want to emphasize the thoughtful journey we've taken over the past 18 months. Our comprehensive process has led us to select curricula that will serve our students and teachers well into the future. These materials meet all the state and federal requirements, but more importantly, they deliver what our stakeholders told us they needed: engaging content, relevant examples, and inclusive perspectives that reflect our diverse community. The strong supports from our teachers, shown in the survey responses and active participation, confirms we're making the right choices for our classrooms. I provided access information for digital materials, and I encourage you to explore these resources firsthand. In January, we'll return to present the contracts for your approval, marking the final step in bringing these high-quality materials to Merced Union High School District. Thank you for your attention this evening, and I welcome any questions you may have about our recommendations or the process.
Hey, Stacy, are the math textbooks are aligned to the new framework?
Yes, so technically nobody's really aligned to the new framework. They're all going to the state in January 2025. So these are the latest edition. And what we have worked out is a deal with a publisher to get a refresh in about 3 to 4 years with the new content material after they've been approved. That would give our teachers about 3 years to get experienced with the materials, and then we would roll over into the new framework.
Is it advantageous to us just to wait a little bit and look at the ones that are aligned that are coming out so that we're not using one that's not aligned for 3 years?
Well, nobody's aligned because, again,
Right.
they're going to the state in 2025, and we really don't want to delay any longer getting our teachers updated materials. So this really does align at the moment. You saw that comprehensive rubric really dug into the math practices and other facets. It wasn't just, teacher materials. So it aligns with the current framework exceptionally well at the moment. The updated framework, nobody's aligning at the moment with the new books.
Right, but they will be soon, and those new ones will be coming out. So we're a little ahead, but then we're going to be a little behind.
Well, in a sense, but if they're not going to the state until January 2025, that's pushing back an adoption at least 2 more years. And so, like I said, we worked out a deal with the publisher to where they're going to give us the new materials once they're published. So we're accounting for that.
Okay.
Our current curriculum also expires, and so we have to go with something.
Yeah.
Our Carnegie contract is up, and unlike curriculum in the past where we had textbooks that we kept for 14 years, even after the adoption was over, with digital curriculum that can't happen. And so we had to go with something, and they addressed that also as they were looking at the publishers with what they were going to offer with the new framework.
So they'll give us the new materials at no cost?
No, there is a cost, but they're actually giving us a discount to do it now, and we negotiated a locked-in price as opposed to waiting for them to be published and then getting whatever they decide.
Is anyone attending the vendor nights that MCOE is hosting with the textbook vendors and their discussions on the alignment with the new framework?
So those vendor nights are mainly geared towards K-8 because they mostly stay out of high school, and so the vendors that have been attending the MCOE night, we've either worked with, eliminated, or they're not appropriate for us.
I plan to go to the Savas one, though, because that's who we're going to go with.
Yeah, and then this is the student textbook, so it's relatively slender, which address the students' concerns, and then this is a workbook that would come with it too. So that's inclusive in the contract, is the hardcover textbook and a workbook every year for a student.
Is there an online version of that as well?
Absolutely. That's something that's pretty standard these days, but even if it's not, it's something we checked. It was a requirement. Every publisher for both math and science had a complete digital curriculum that could be accessed, in some cases even offline. So, taking into account some students don't have internet access.
Well, it looks like you guys did a very thorough process, so that's great. Thank you. But going back to what Tiffany said, is the cost significant going with it now and then getting the refresh later?
Actually, it's not. It's more cost effective to do this way. We also are looking at a longer contract, an 8-year contract with that to spread out the cost. It actually, incorporating the refresh only adds a couple dollars per student, as opposed to, as Mandy said, we'd have to buy something now, regardless, because our contract is expiring, and then we'd have to buy something again in 2 to 3 years with the new framework. We're just doing it all right ahead, so it is actually more cost effective to just lock in somebody for 7 to 8 years with a refresh as part of the contract.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
We were very cognizant of money, you know, evaluating 22 courses, curriculum for 22 courses.
For those of us who don't know the going to state process, can you explain what that is?
So once the frameworks have been adopted, they give, I mean, it's public information, but the publishers take that information, and oftentimes they're sitting in on these public forums and trying to plan in advance, and then they revise their materials in response to that. And so usually the state has a deadline. All the publishers have been telling me the submit date is January 2025, you know, to kind of get the, California says it's okay, you meet minimum quality standards. And so we would be getting the California edition with the refresh revised framework for the mathematics. The science, those are the California editions.
But then did I understand you to say it takes 2 to 3 years for that to get actually implemented?
Right. Because publishers have to, whether are approved or not, then have to go to print. So, you know, once the state just gets them in January, and then it would be a whole another months, a year, once that all gets done, and then have to go to print. So it's going to be minimum 2 years before these books hit market.
And historically, let me add on to that real quickly. Historically, that's for the elementary schools.
Yes.
And then high schools come in later. Because for elementary schools, you have to go through a state adoption. The state adopts curriculum, and then school districts have to choose from the adopted curriculum lists. So they always do those first, because that's what the textbook companies want. They go to the state, they try to make sure they get on that list. Once that's all done, then they turn around and start working on high school curriculums, because we don't have to have a state adopted textbook. We just have to agree that it aligns to the materials.
And that's why I was explaining to Ms. Pickle that we're not really participating in those MCOE math dinners, because they're geared K-8 more towards the elementary publishers.
Well, so, I mean, I guess I'm hearing this maybe a little bit differently, but it sounds like we're actually ahead of the game, because we have to be. So you've we've negotiated to start something immediately, or what is it, in the next fall?
Mm-hmm.
But then we've pre-negotiated for once new materials are available, we will be able to implement those.
Right. And they gave us our choice of when to enact that contract trigger. They were willing to give us the digital materials as part of the contract, but they're anticipating about a 20% change. And I felt it was important that our teachers had physical materials that reflected the new framework. So that's why we negotiated for a change in the coming years.
So I'm sure, like Julio, we all really appreciate the thoroughness of this review, and in particular getting all of that stakeholder feedback. It's so important, and we know from a few years ago when that didn't happen, you know what that was like. Can you explain, because I don't totally follow, in your earlier slides it looked like Carnegie scored highest, but then ultimately you had a majority picking a different curriculum. So I was just trying to understand what the difference was between those two measurements.
As far as I'm concerned, there is no difference between those two measurements. So yes, Sava scored 80% and Carnegie 83.5. So this rubric that I had people attend to, and you can click on those links when you have a chance and read the detailed rubrics and how they compared side by side. There was about 20, 25 points my review teams had to evaluate on. And since it was so comprehensive, they could only review one book within the given time frame. So this is one person's perspective. It wasn't necessarily 8 people's perspective on a singular book. So the fact that they came in really close, to me, those were just high quality materials. I appreciated about this process that, you know, I don't feel that the science ones in the 60s are poor materials. You know, some of it's just becoming familiar. Some of the teachers, the evaluators were just like, okay, I'm just trying to understand how this is laid out. But it was clear with Discovery in science and McGraw-Hill in math, they just really did not meet our needs. I was confident with everything else that, you know, kind of came ranked together. So I don't see a difference on that 3.5%. That's just, I think, just falls into reviewer opinion, you know, slight difference.
I see. Okay, so that's a reviewer's opinion, and then your later metric was constituents in the district's opinion.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
got
So when about 70% teachers selected Savas, I gave them these rubrics, and they appreciated that they could see the side by side, that somebody really spent hours digging through this textbook because they did not get hours to do that. Or we incorporated things like equity and literacy and what types of resources were available. And so it helped them to already have some of those deeper dives done, and then they were able to see for themselves and look through the materials. And that's also why I had them cite evidence, you know, of the, look at this page. One of the things with McGraw-Hill's math was they had questions rated by DOK. So actually what they called a DOK 3 question in their textbooks, we call a 2. And what they called a 2, we called a 1. And that was part of what ranked them down. We didn't feel they were rigorous and that they mislabeled their materials.
it. Well, thank you again for the very, very thorough review process. And I, in particular, appreciated teachers' comments in your presentation. And I think there was one on math that said, the language in the questions was easy to understand, so you didn't have to have a high reading level in order to have a higher math level. And I thought that was pretty significant. So thank you.
the like I said, I had them justify, you know, or I said, tell me why it's your first choice and tell me why this is your last choice. I didn't have them explain the stuff in the middle, but they had some really insightful comments. Absolutely. And it just, like, as opposed to just giving an opinion and why did they feel this way, it just lended a lot of confidence to the process. Our teachers made a very thoughtful decision. And of course, yes, I chose quotes that highlighted, you know, these align with our board goals, and that's also what the teachers were considering. And I think I have those all available, you know, to read, because there actually were I had a lot to choose from. Our teachers had a lot of great things to say. And, you know, they offered real insight about why they chose some things last. It was just like, okay, tell us why you want us to steer clear of this one. And that was helpful too.
Excellent. And are costs comparable on each of these different textbooks?
Yes. So all told, for the entire adoption, it will come to about $5 million for everything I outlined. I know, so your eyes got big there. But you have to remember that's 22 courses. That is all math courses, science courses, and AP courses. And so for 7-year adoptions for science and 8-year adoption for math. So we won't be addressing this question again real soon. So the cost per student works out to, it's very, I want to say it's in the $30s per student, which is pretty much our going standard for curriculum. It's just the price tag seems very large because I'm covering 22 classes. There's a lot of curriculum here we're lumping in.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any further questions? Nope. All right. Thank you very, very much. All right. At this time, we will call Mrs. Pellissier forward to give us a school profile update.
Well, school profiles are much cheaper than curriculum. They are free. So I know I am here to give you just a brief overview of school profiles. Earlier in the year, some questions were posed to Deputy Superintendent Ballinger about school profiles. It's not the first time that community members or board members have asked about school profiles, so we thought this was a great time to address it with our sites and to kind of give you guys a brief overview of what a school profile is. So, I never push the right buttons either. Okay. Historically speaking, I worked in the counseling department for quite a few years at several schools, and school profiles are not typically on anybody's radars. They're not used very often. They are used in a Common App, which I will explain in just a few minutes. Typically, the person that updates them briefly is the senior counselor. We do not have grade level counselors anymore. They are alpha. So in asking sites who's been updating them, people really didn't know who was doing it. Department chairs sometimes will do it. Whatever counselor has the most history would do it. But school profiles generally don't take a lot of time to update because you're typically talking about your academic curricula that is being offered at your school. School profiles provide contextual information for college admissions, usually around grading, how we assign grades, how we calculate GPAs, how we calculate class ranks, and the type of coursework that is offered at a school. So that's typically what you'll find in a school profile. It is commonly included in the Common App. That is the application that is generally used for private universities and out-of-state universities. At this point in time, I can tell you that only about 4% of our student population is applying using the Common App, so it's a very small number of students, and usually they will come in and talk to a counselor one-on-one and say, you know, hey, I'm applying, this is my Common App, and it's at that time that the school counselor has to upload student transcripts and usually the school profile. So it's not a super common document that people know about, but it should be, and it's a great representation of the school, and there's no reason that we can't bring that more to the forefront of our sites. So that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today. The fundamental elements that should be in a school profile include your school and community facts, school staff contact info. It should be very easy for a college admissions counselor to be able to contact a school if they have questions. A description of the grading system is important. Curriculum offerings, including grad requirements, AP course offerings. More importantly now, dual enrollment that is replacing some of our AP course offerings. Educational outcomes, extracurricular programs, unique programs, those can all be highlighted in there. That's optional information, but it might include post-secondary destinations. Where are our students attending colleges? What types of universities are they attending? National recognitions can be included, dual enrollment numbers, CTE programs. Those are all newer ideas in education that weren't typically on a school profile before, but is definitely recommended that they are now. So just a quick overview of what makes a competitive applicant. Academic rigor, which would be your a student transcript with GPA and class rank. Test scores if they're asked for. Challenging coursework has always been important. So we typically will list all AP classes that are offered at a school. That changes just a little bit yearly, depending on student signups, but it gives a college application or a college admissions counselor the opportunity to say, hey, this school offered 16 AP courses, but the student who's applying only took advantage of 2. Why is that? Why didn't they pursue the more rigorous courses? So that was generally what they were looking at. They would put that academic profile or the school profile next to that student's transcript and be able to ask some deeper questions about the rigor that the student completed. So this is a little bit hard to see, but historically, including up to last year, MUHSD school profiles were pretty much just a quick description, again, of academics and how we grade on school letterhead. It's a one-page document in paragraph format a lot of times. It requires people to have to actually read through paragraphs, which we are finding more and more people don't like to do that as much as we used to. It's difficult to extract information. We took it to our counseling teams and found some newer updated profiles, what the examples are, what the recommendations are from the College Board, from the National Association of College Admission Counselors, the UC system. What are they looking for in a school profile? And it's very different now. So with that being said, we took it to our counseling teams and we gave them about a week and a half to update their school profiles based on some requirements and guidelines that we gave them. And this is a little bit more of what you'll see now on our school websites. So they definitely recommend no more than 2 pages. Chunking it into sections is easier to read. Less text, more graphics. They really want to see more infographic type school profiles. Visual clarity is important, and making it easy to search on the internet is important. None of our school profiles were found on the internet prior to now. So with that being said, all of our school profiles can be found on each school website under reports and plans. Still difficult for me to Google search it. You can find it, but when you search school profiles for a specific high school, it comes up. There's a lot of school profiles out there. The CDE has one, DataQuest has one. There's a lot of entities that have school profiles for high schools. So I'm looking for ways to make that easier to find. If you were to just search El Capitan school profile, easier to pop in, but I'm working on that. So all of them are posted on our websites. You should be able to access all of them again under reports and plans, school profile. They will be maintained by the APs of counseling in their counseling departments every year, updated as needed. And finally, I took all of the newly updated school profiles to our Ed Services team. I just asked them to do a quick little look through and determine which one was the easiest to extract information, the quality information that they are looking for in school profiles. And overwhelmingly, Ed Services chose Atwater High's. Now, I do want to tell you, we gave them a week and a half. That was it, a week and a half. We said, get this stuff done. Some of our APs of counseling had no idea what a school profile was. They're like, what? Never heard of that. Some of our new counselors don't really know what it is because they haven't been asked to submit one for our Common App. So, Miguel, if you could click on that real quick for me, please. It should pull it up. So this is Atwater High Schools. It is pretty easy to chunk it. We have grading system. First of all, up at the top, they do want to give a community profile. It is really important to include our demographics, especially when you're coming from a district with low socioeconomic disadvantaged students. So very easy to look at their demographics. They have links, so full links to the staff directory, course offerings, student learner outcomes. They added in career technical education, which is fairly new. School profiles did not have any information about that in the past. They did include test scores for their students. And then at the very bottom, as we talked about, they added colleges attended by graduates, and those are the most common colleges that Atwater High students have been attending. So they did an excellent job. I want to thank Lindsay Parker, if she's back there, because she had this done in a day. We said, you have a week and a half to get this done. I'm putting them on the websites, and how do you think this one looks, Amy? I was like, wow, that was super quick. So then we kind of used that with the rest of the sites to give them an example. And everybody, BUHAC and Golden Valley still are in a little bit of the letterhead format, but they're working on it. And again, every year they'll be updating these, and we'll make sure that they are available. Again, it is typically used for the Common App, but it's a great thing to have on our website, and there's no reason not to highlight our schools and the great things they're doing and the great things that our graduates are doing. So that's what I have for you on school profiles. Nice and cheap for the district. You guys have any questions? I like to bring the free programs to you guys.
I don't have a question, but I do want to say a great big thank you, because I was one of the parents last year. We had a bunch of our seniors applying out of state, and this is how we found out about the school profile. And when we looked at ours, and then I think we brought it up to Mrs. Ballinger's attention. So night and day,
it was a great discussion to be had. Again, we've had we have a lot of new people in counseling, so a lot of people didn't know what it was for. So super happy with what everybody's done, and it was an easy fix. So we're glad that it was brought to the attention of Ms. Ballinger and that we were able to fix that. So
thank you very much. Yes,
all right,
great job.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we move along to Employee Association comment period, but I don't think there's anybody here from either employee.
Kit might have something to say.
Kit, I'm so thankful that you were my audience.
I enjoyed staying for the whole meeting. So far. So far. Just getting warmed up. And I do have some thoughts, but I'll save them for myself and share them with some people.
You can email all of us.
Some for their time.
You can take the floor for DTA if you'd like. Okay. Then at this time, we will move along to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Trustee Jayasinga, would you like to acknowledge the donations?
Yes. Would like to do that. All right. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank the following donors for their generosity. For Atwater High School, we have donations for boys soccer from Los Barbers Company, Casa Furniture, Garia Farms Produce, California Kids Pediatric Dentistry, Supply for You, Chad Pereira, Caroline Barron, Donald and Daisy Cole, and John Sanchotena. And for Golden Valley High School, donation to be used for Rink Sano Scholarship from the Livingston United Methodist Church. For Golden Valley Boys Soccer, a donation from Campus Automotive. And for Livingston High School, a donation to be used for the Jackson Family Scholarship from Rebecca and Trevor Jackson. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Jayasinga. Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
I did have a question, and this was with regard to the single plan for student achievement, and I brought it up earlier, but I would like to ask again. Just looking at some of the data, when I was looking through the Golden Valley High School report, just the question is about the high graduation rates, and then the lower numbers for the groups that are meeting the standards. How does that correlate?
Clearly, it doesn't correlate. But our teachers do not have to grade on how students perform on any kind of standardized assessment like the CAS, which is what our dashboard is based on. Also, we don't believe that a student is any single test score. There's so much more than that. So our teachers provide multiple measures for our students to perform what they're learning in their classrooms. So it's really based on a lot of different things besides just their test scores.
So are we basically saying that they're graduating and they are able to read to maybe the state standards or exceed, despite what the CAS score says?
Not just by what the CAS score says, no. I mean, that our CAS scores have room for improvement. But not all students perform well on tests. I mean, there's so many variables with that. For sure, we want to see our CAS scores improve, but I don't know that we'll ever say that have 97% met or exceeded where we will have 97% graduation rates.
I had a question. What is our insurance deductible? There was the flood on the turf at this school, and I was just curious, is that something we would normally put on under insurance, or didn't look like we did?
I will have to look into that one. I don't know that one off the top of my head. We are self-insured on most things, and so you have to hit certain limits before things kick in. But I can look into that one.
Thank you. And then the other question I had was on the ASB reports, there was only BUHAC and the adult school, and normally we have all of them at once. Did we have some last month and not? Okay, I didn't remember. Okay.
Missed those two last month. They didn't
Yep.
get a minute.
And is it the same?
The same was with the SIPSA. The others were last month.
Right,
And that
okay.
one,
And is it the same on the site plans? We did some last month.
Yes.
And some, okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. Does anyone else have any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
I Miss Rollback. I lost connection.
All right, that passes unanimously, so we will move on to the action agenda section and the first interim report by Dr. Weimer.
so just a fun note before we get started on the stuff that usually drives everybody out of the room, but we do have one guest, so that's a good thing for us. It was nice to see the it was nice to see the recognitions tonight, and this will probably feel good for you as well. But 3 of those students and 1 of those coaches' parents played water polo for me at some point. So that was always nice to see.
How many of the trustees played for you?
I'm not going to answer that. So looking at the first interim. So we do notice, again, we do have our estimated ADA, and I've noted in the polls several times where we were looking at, and then we thought it might be a little bit better, but we did end up about 60 students down this year. So this is the second year in a row that we will be going down in enrollment. Based on the current available data in the state database, this is the bottom, and it will go up starting next year. Not tremendously, but it will start going back up a little bit, and then we stay within a range for the next 5 to 6 years. So we don't expect that trend to continue past this year. You can see our LCFF components. These are just the assumptions that were used for the budget, and they have not changed for first interim. We can see the revenues of $222 million when you take everything in together. The assumptions for expenditures, we have our 1.5 step and column. We have the raises. The bonuses are already included as well. You see the transfers out. And then you'll see our expenditures here, and it looks better on when you start looking at this one. You can see the differences between the adopted budget and the first interim here. So you do see that our ending balance was 39. It is going to more likely be 28. We are basically getting rid of those last funds that are about to expire. So you're going to see those happening, and you'll see it on the multi-year projection better than you'll see it on this one. So you do see the multi-year projection when we go out to 25 and 26. You do see that in the 24-25, we had a $39 million projected budget at the end. It's going to be most likely down to 28 once we start getting all of the funds that are expiring, getting those spent. That will bring that down. You'll see it go down a little bit. This year, we're going to pretty much get rid of most of the big ones. The ESSER is finished. The Learning Block Grant is going to be finished. Then you're going to see in the 25-26, we still have some very specific funds that are there. We still have some community schools grant funds. We have some A through G grant funds, some educator effective ones that are not broad-based ones. They're very narrow ones. You'll see most of those being spent out by the end of 25-26, and by 26-27, you do see a normal budget again. You do see that that's going to be about a $16 million ending balance. That's typically between 16 and 18 is what we were running pre-COVID, so we're pretty much back into the normal state of where we're going to be at that particular point. You do see that there's negative expenditures in that last one. Part of that is going to be identifying the one-time funds that we are no longer spending and taking those expenses out. So we do expect to have a balanced budget when we come back for the budget in June. For that 26-27, you'll probably see a balanced budget at that particular point, taking those things into account. So you will see the other fund balances. Again, the student body activity one, we take the money in, then we give it back. It's the students' money, but we have to pull it into the district funds once a year for accounting purposes for the auditors. But then it turns around and goes right back out to the student body funds. Adult school is funded by the consortium. Every year we put in and then basically spend what we need to for the Child Development Center over on East Campus. We are running still a surplus in the cafeteria food services. And then pupil transportation will be paying for the last of the buses that are coming in, and we will still have $2.1 million in there. Part of that's probably going to be needed as we try to have a transition in the topic over how do we move to EV? What kind of EV infrastructure, what kind of EV vehicles do we need to start getting? That gives us a little bit of room there to use for that particular purpose. Deferred maintenance for projects unknown. Building fund, you will see that's the bond will be gone. So all of that funding will be gone. We're probably 1 year longer than we should have. They don't like you to take more than 5 years to spend your bond proceeds. Once you get it, you need to use it. We will be having all of that spent between the pools and the stadiums. That money will be gone. We do have developer fees. That's usually right now for our expansion and for portables. So that's the majority of use for that. School facility fund, 400,000, and then capital reserves for projects, 23. But again, that will not include, that 23 does not include all of the costs for the stadiums. So there will be some of that money next year that will go and finish out the stadiums. Fund 17 is our reserves. So you see the 10 million there. There's about 7 million in the regular budget. That gives us our 10% reserves. And then the OPEB is the 11 million, which is paying for the current PARs, the bonuses, and then any future PARs that we would like to offer. And then this is one that is MCOE, and we don't, or Merced County, we don't get to touch this. That's interest on the bond stuff that doesn't really apply to us, and we don't get to use it. So we do have a positive certification. We can pay our bills for out years and this current year. So the superintendent does recommend that the board approve the first interim certification, positive certification. I do have some others that I'm going to go on to, and we'll come back to that real quickly. So go ahead and switch to the other.
Is there a motion to approve?
Scott, do you want to finish what you're doing before the motion?
It doesn't matter if it's before or after.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve.
In?
Second.
Are there any questions? I have one.
Mhm.
It's not so much about approving, but I'm curious about the nutrition balance.
Mhm.
Do we always carry a really high balance there?
That's new for us. If you go back several years before we went to the community eligibility provision, we actually would run a negative, and we would actually be putting in a lot of money into that one. There are some funds that need to be spent that are not regular in there that they will be spending down on that, but we are running balances, which means they will be able to start doing some other things and some more creative things in the cafeteria, because we typically don't try to run large balances there. You try to do a little bit better than breaking even. But again, that's not normal for us, and so we have to get into that mindset that we are covering our costs and doing very well in that particular program, so they will be able to change some stuff and do some more stuff.
So they could potentially elevate the quality of the food and
Yep.
I mean, can that go toward, is that just for ingredients, or could it go for barbecue equipment at campuses or things of that nature?
Kind of. As long as it's nutrition services, facilities and stuff, if you were to like build a barbecue out here that anybody could use, that gets a little bit trickier. But if it's things that are used for the cafeterias and the cafeteria services, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I think one of my nephews goes to a public school that has a Michelin-starred chef.
Ooh.
But of course, they aren't state funded. So anyway, call for the vote.
I still can't get on. I'm an aye. Okay. We're voting right now.
It's sending like it's
So I do have one last slide that goes along with that. It's not part of the certification. It's just a little bit of an update on where we are in a wide variety of things. It's been a very interesting couple of months, economically, politically, and things that are going to be facing us here as we start planning our next budget as we move into January and get the governor's budget. But a couple of things just to kind of see where we're at. Revenues continue to come in higher than projected for the state. So we were expected to be below and have some deficits in the state. That's actually going much better, so there is money coming in there. They are going to be required to make a lot of payments back into the reserve funds that they used for this particular year so that we didn't take any cuts like other departments did. So we may or may not see any one-time monies coming in from that, but it is a much better projection than what it was when we did the budget. So there are still some concerns about 26, 27 in the state budget. They're still doing a few gimmicks. Hopefully there'll be enough one-time money this year and maybe next year to be able to take care of those and not cause problems. So hopefully that's going to take care of itself as well. We have had an estimate. 6 of the 8 components that determine what the COLA is are already in. So they have a very good estimate of what the COLA is going to be. It is budgeted at 2.9. It's looking like it's going to come in around 2.46. We had one estimate as low as 1.8, but the most recent ones that have come out were 2.4. So that's what the Legislative Analyst Office is thinking it's going to come out. We had a CPI come out this morning that was 3.3, so that would be 3.6. So 2.4 is probably in the ballpark when we get it all said and done. And we're guessing that 2.4 is what they're going to use in the governor's budget when that comes out in January. The district has a 10% reserve cap. That might be triggered again in 24-25 where we have to make sure we stay underneath that. So anything above that 10%, we would have to make sure we commit those funds to a specific project. We can't have them just sitting there as reserves. And the district is projected again to be down 57 ADA for from 23-24. But again, this is that last year that we're expecting that little bit of dip we're expecting to see go back up. And as I drive through the county, I do see all of the machinery along the parkway starting to move again. So as you see all the different pieces of Weaver, as you get out towards the UC Merced, and as you get out towards El Capitan, you do see all of those starting to gear back up and starting to move again. So that's probably going to increase. Now, whether any of those become high school students or whether they're 3rd or 4th grade students, you know what that means and how it gets to us, it just means we're not probably going to continue down. That's something you're going to see us start to swing back up again. The political one is starting to worry a lot of people, and you're going to hear a lot, I'm sure, about that from CSBA and a wide variety of different things. But there's a couple things between the state and the national level that are going on right now. The state is studying enrollment funding rather than ADA funding. So giving schools money based on your enrollment, your CBED enrollment, not how many students attend every day, which sounds interesting on its face. But if you don't put more money into the pot, what that means is all of the schools who have really low attendance right now are going to benefit. Oakland, LA, those who run in the 82%, 83% attendance rates, those who run in the 93, 94% attendance rate, us, would lose money. So we are watching that. The organizations know what's going on here. They're looking at those types of things. But the legislature passed a bill last year to study this, put forward by, of course, the legislators from LA who want to look at this and the possible funding of this. So this is one of the things we are keeping an eye on because, again, if they don't adjust the funding and give more money into the pot and they just reshuffle things, that's a win for some people and a loss for others. And we would probably be a loss under that situation. They're also studying adding groups to the LCAP calculation like chronic absenteeism. And again, that's one of those ones where it depends. Is that an increased pot where everybody gets more money, or are you going to reshuffle the LCAP pot and who gets it? We would be a loser again on that one as well. So those are things we're watching at the state level where you're starting to see a little bit of tensions between large districts and everybody else in the state over funding. So that's probably going to play out within the next couple of years. And you do have a large turnover of legislature due to term limits. So the head of the Senate Education Committee, who was a very good friend to education, lost his reelection bid. So you will see a lot of turnover in the legislature, which none of them were there when LCFF was written. They don't necessarily know what it's about. They don't necessarily care. It's what can I get done and who do I want to get it done for? That makes things a little bit rockier, not quite as stable for funding as we go through that picture. So those are things we're watching at the state level. Of course, the national one we're watching, we don't know yet until things actually start to happen. Right now it's talk, but the talk of whether or not you get rid of the Department of Education, whether that would mean anything to us, we're not sure. The proposals that you've seen so far would be to get rid of the Department of Education at the federal level, but then to take all the programs and put them in other places. Well, if all the programs stay, and Perkins stays, and we keep getting Perkins, and we keep getting special education from a different department, and we get Title I funding from a different department, I'm not sure how much it impacts us, but we're watching those types of things to see whether or not those things change. And the other one is whether or not that somehow gets tied into school vouchers or choice or any of those types of things as well, and what that could mean. So that's a topic that we're watching as well. And then you also have programs. We get about $12 million, 5.4% of our budget, from federal programs. And so a clash between the state and the federal government could be fiscally something we need to watch. Because if you ever get to a point where the feds say you have to do this to get money and you don't get the money if you don't do it, and the state says we don't want to take your money any longer, then that's a $12 million discussion that we get here. I don't see them doing that. That's a large amount of money that impacts a variety of constituencies across the state, but they might try to fund part of it themselves if they have high tax receipts coming in. So we have to watch those things to see what's going to happen. And the two that would happen, the Title I requirements and the Title IX requirements, are the two where you might see a battle between the state and the federal government. And again, I'm not taking sides on either side of that or having part of that discussion. It's just, what is that going to mean to us as a funding source, and how does that work out and play out? So again, those are some interesting things that are very unique to this upcoming year. Most of those political ones we have never faced. These are brand new issues for us. You have not seen these in education before, any of these particular situations. So we are watching those very closely. So that's just an update real quickly on where we stand economically and politically. Economically sound, but we have to watch some of those things that are going on. Politics looks like it might start getting to be impacting funding potentially here in different ways, so we have to keep watch of those. Questions on that?
Thank you, Dr. Weimer. And for anybody watching at home, we voted in the middle of his presentation, and we did vote 5-0 to adopt the first interim report. Next up, Mr. Nicholson with the supplemental salary schedule for the 24-25 school year.
Good evening. Tonight we bring before you an update on the supplemental salary schedule. So on effective January 1st, 2025, minimum wage will go to $16.50 an hour. And so we need to update our salary schedule, and that affects our student employees and college student employees. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the new supplementary salary schedule.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the supplemental salary schedule.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Nicholson? Seeing none, call for the vote.
I'm an aye, Ms. Roback.
Thank you.
And that also passes 5-0. At this time, we would love to hear from Cheryl Garman about the class of 2029 Chromebook refresh.
Good evening. 3,500 Chromebooks is the projected amount to purchase to cover the class of 2029 and also to maintain sufficient inventory due to not only possible growth but loss and damage that naturally occurs each year across all grade levels. Ordering the Gen 4 devices now instead of waiting until after the first of the year when Gen 5 is going to be released is going to provide a little bit of financial savings, and more importantly, or I guess is equally important, it maintains some consistency among the parts that we are ordering and dealing with Chromebook repair centers, and not introducing another generation model into the fold across our inventory. That's really helps with consistency with that program. So the superintendent recommends that the board approves the purchase of $3,500 or 3,500 Chromebooks for the class of 2029.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
And a second?
I second that motion.
Are there any questions? I have one. How different do you think the Gen 5 will be from Gen 4?
I do not know how different. I can tell you that there are differences between the Gen 3 and Gen 4 that we have in our inventory right now. We have Lenovo Gen 3 and Lenovo Gen 4, and we have a graduating class of 2025 with Asus 204. So, I mean, that will leave us potentially with only Lenovo's Gen 3 and 4, which will help. But there are differences with the screen size, the Wi-Fi antenna, the wrist rest, all the different components. A hinge can be differently situated on a new generation model. It's hard to say. And
Well,
so
I guess I'm asking from the standpoint of, we all know that the advances in technology, are pretty great every time some new generation comes out. And how much money are we saving? I mean, it seems like the latest and greatest technology is always better. And so I'm just wondering if we might not be better off to spend the money to have better units.
I would argue it's not necessarily a better unit, although not knowing for sure yet. And an option is, of course, to wait and see, and then you take that risk of how much more per device is going to get charged for us. That's adding a new generation of model and a new set of parts that also come with increased prices that we then have to purchase for our repair centers to fix those devices. So I don't know that you make up. It's hard to say.
I think that it would probably be a bigger conversation if we were talking about a lab, where we're talking about desktop power computing and those types of things, where you might even be talking about AI and the ability to run those types of situations, or even a lab that we were using with regular laptops. Not for Chromebooks, I'm not thinking it's going to be that huge and significant of a difference on the Chromebook.
Well, I'm watching my colleague, Trustee Jayasinga over here, use her fingers on her screen and do fancy things that I envy because I can't do, because I have a much older model than she does. So it's things like
Oh.
that, I guess, and I'm just curious.
Yours is an Apple, that's why. These are Chromebooks. These are Surface
she
Pros.
has a Chromebook and I have a Mac. Well, mine's old.
Mrs. Garmin, quick question.
If you would like to entertain the purchase of Apple products for our students, I'm all into that conversation.
That would be more expensive.
Stockpile, is it the stockpile of supplies that we still have, that Gen 4 that would, I guess, for lack of a better term, end up not using if we went to that Gen 5 because they're outdating, I guess?
Are you asking are they end of life?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, just the materials. Like, I know we have the repair centers at sites, so they repair. And right now they're Gen 3s and Gen 4s because the Asuses are going out.
Yes, we have stopped this year buying new motherboards, for example, for the Asus, because those are graduating, and the remaining inventory of that model will become the classroom loaners that we use. And that would happen with any Gen 4s not being used. They get filtered through classroom use in that manner.
And basically the repair centers are pretty much set on those 3s and 4s right now. So we have materials still for the 4s. This isn't going to radically change their learning curve.
No, it won't. These will be 4s coming in, what they're used to, and they work with a curriculum now that specifically offers customizable fix-it videos for the models of Lenovo's that we use now, and so that's also a reason why to just kind of keep on the same track that we're on.
The biggest difference is probably just a slight change in the processor, right? Which isn't much. So
I think we
mean, it's
gain.
just we're saving some money, but functionally it's probably not much different.
Yeah.
And the screens might even be the same.
They might be.
For replacement parts.
Thank you for adding
Which
your
is helpful.
expertise. Yes. Okay.
Well, my question is, what is the Sterling Sacramento warehouse processing fee, which is $56,000?
That's who we've been working with for a number of years. They do like the white glove service that gets all their devices ready for us, engraves them with our logo, gets them all asset tagged, gets them all processed in the same, the manner so that it's like buying a new house and it's like turnkey ready and you walk in and boom, they do that for us. So
Okay.
they deliver it and we're ready to go.
Well, it's only $16 per unit, so, I mean, if that's the case, that's not a lot.
Any other questions? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Her cool computer won't stay online, so.
There we go. What gen is that? Okay. Not working well tonight.
Thank you.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Garman. At this time, we will turn to Mr. Peterson for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Ham. First of all, congratulations to all of our board members for their reelection. Clap, clap, clap. I really do think that says a lot. Excellent CSBA conference last week in Anaheim. I had not been there in a long time, and it's nice to have it in that city. Always enjoyable. Coffee with the Soup is this Friday morning. Tune in. We've got a couple spicy questions, which I always enjoy. A shameless plug for the Christmas adventure at the Bloss House. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Check the websites for those times. That's Mrs. Aguilar and the Atwater Drama Department. And Mrs. Jayasinga, I think your comment tonight about the difference between the gap in our test scores and the correlation with grad rates is a great conversation for next week. It is a very, it's not a light conversation. There are a lot of variables to it, and I appreciate that you stated it that way, and I think it's a good conversation to have. I want to thank everyone for a great first semester of the school year. All of our employees, our students, and our board members. Wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. At this time, we will turn to each board member for any communications. Mr. Valadez, start with you.
Sure, thanks again to everyone for what you do. And I always thank those who stay till the end. So thank you. And even the ones that don't have to be here. So thank you all. And thank you for those who supported me to stay on the board again. So that's pretty much it for tonight. Thank you.
Mrs. Jayasinga?
Hey, I attending CSBA last weekend or week. attended some really good sessions, and then there were a couple of sessions where I attended, and as I listened to the presenters talking about all the great things they did, I kept thinking to myself, we do that. Oh, we do that. And so it was, it was kind of nice to see that the things that they were saying that they're just now doing, we've been doing for a while. So to staff, teachers, administrators, everyone involved in our district, thank you for everything each and every one of you does for the success of our students. And that's pretty much it from me. Season's greetings, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for a great first semester. And I guess, oh no, we are going to meet next week, aren't we? Oh yeah, so not quite over yet. So I'm ready to celebrate the holidays. Thank you, everyone.
Mrs. Pickle?
Yes, I agree with Mrs. Jayasinga that the conference was very good, but when you go to the sessions, it does validate, some of the great things that are happening and the great people that we have behind it, driving it. So thank you to all of you. Had a nice visit at Atwater and BUHAC recently, last week I think it was. It was really nice going in, talking to the principals, but going in the classrooms. And one of the things that I noticed when I was at BUHAC, we went in the classes, that there's more student interaction. We're not just seeing kids on Chromebooks. The relevance of the discussions they were having, the topics that they were discussing was really nice. And then here at Atwater, they were doing their CTE tours, which was awesome to see. Student-led, which was incredible. Things that they do are really amazing, very impressive. This is one of them. And I know Lexi and I were talking about, what Photo's doing and what they have the potential to do, and their manufacturing, and, just the things you could really do inside in house and not have to outsource. So are really making some good gains there. And I think that's it. So we'll wish everyone a good weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Stacy, it was a great presentation tonight. Very in-depth. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Amy, thank you for going through the school profiles. Yeah, I think that was the same profile when I was graduating in 1978. So just probably, so we definitely need it updated. Had the opportunity to go to Ag Boosters last night. Had a really good conversation with the teaching staff out there. I can't believe they have 9 teachers now in 54 sections. That's incredible. 1,200 students, unduplicated 1,200 students. That's awesome. Great job, Kit, and your program. Thank you very much. I know BUHAC, I'll say this so Mr. Johnson can relay that. Great job for those guys as well. Again, Alexi, I loved your showcase on your summer internship. I sure hope we can spread that out, because that's always, as a former site principal, the summertime was always your stress point, and getting that taken care of with those kids was great. I didn't get into classrooms a whole lot like I usually like to do, but I am a UC mentor for teacher prep programs, so I actually get to see them teach because they're practicing for their Cal TPA. So, and I'll relay what Tiffany just said. There's a lot more work on outside the Chromebook going on, a lot more interaction, a lot more when I talk to my students, they're doing a lot better job of getting the students to engage in their own learning, not just listen to somebody talk all the time. So again, I have one of my student teachers in with Mrs. Olson. So with that, I'll say the happy holidays and happy new year, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate once again what a privilege it is to work alongside this group of trustees, this superintendent, this cabinet, and how high functioning I think that we are. I'm elated that 3 of you were reelected. I think the continuity is really helpful for the forward and very positive progress that we continue to make. And as Molly said, I think this was my 6th CSBA, maybe 5th. I don't know. Did we go during COVID? I don't know.
No. So
so 5th. And it really was, I mean, the first few times everything's brand new, but really a lot this time felt like, yeah, we do that. We do that, you know. I mean, this is just really, I think, an exceptional district. So I'm really proud to be part of it. I appreciate all of you, our staff, our students, and the families of the district. And I know we can always work on engagement, and I think some of those pieces we're discussing and we'll continue to discuss our goals next week for the future. I think that will be a robust and great conversation, and I will look forward to it. And with that, our meeting is adjourned at 7:52. Thank you.